Hello everybody, and welcome back once again to GazaGoGYT. And today, we are back with the second part of Diablosaurus Titanus versus the Great Hybrid War. Now for those who haven't watched the first video, click off and go watch it now before coming back to this one. But for those who have watched that video, let's not waste any of your time and get right into the carnage. Now let's start off strong with a fellow horned menace. Meet Alvar. This 10-ton ceratopsian hybrid has been rightfully nicknamed Mini Iblis due to the fact that its genetic makeup shares a lot of similarities with that of Iblis, using the Triceratops as the base genome with reinforcements to the neck and cranium from both Pachycephalosaurus and Blue Wildebeest, allowing it to withstand the blowback of its own powerful charges, with Blue Wildebeest also providing its energy-efficient muscles, and Megalodon for cartilaginous reinforcements to the skeleton and more flexible joints for greater speed and agility. Now, in comparison to hybrids like Tyrannoceratops from the previous episode, Iblis would have a harder time keeping up with Alvar due to its superior speed and agility and much smaller size. However, Iblis would still be capable of employing a similar strategy to what it employed against Tyrannoceratops, except with a different limb. Considering that Alvar would likely target my hybrid's flanks with its horns, the Thagomizer would come into play. And considering that the Stegosaurus Thagomizer is already known for its ability to break through bone, a good strike to the head, while it may not kill due to how hard Alvar's skull is, but it would still be capable of piercing deep, causing immense pain for Alvar, which would allow my hybrid to step in and finish off the job with a powerful stomp to the torso or a bite to the neck. And say that Alvar's rattlesnake reflexes kick in, allowing it to dodge the attack. Well, in that case, Alvar's charge would have been successfully intercepted, and he would now be closer to the range of my hybrid's jaws, which would be more than enough to finish the job. Next up is A666 2.0, the winner of the Lucy Hybrid War. This 18-ton hadrosaur hybrid is basically Gilgamesh but with even more finesse, with a strong venomous bite, powerful but dexterous forelimbs, as well as spiny defense from both Borealopelta and Echidna. This guy is an absolute unit, but against my hybrid, he wouldn't fare too great, considering that my hybrid has a significant advantage in size as well as much more robust armor that will make it very difficult if not nearly impossible, same with Gilgamesh by the way, to injure Iblis. Not to mention that my hybrid also has the agility to keep up with A666 2.0 and much better weapons that allow it to either goad from the side or target its throat, especially that A666 2.0 is actually a bit taller than Iblis. The next opponent my hybrid will have to go up against is Magnodensarmus by GameBeast Labs from Discord. Now this guy might look very similar to Mr. Pickles from the previous episode, and quite frankly, yes, it is, as both are comparable to each other height and lengthwise, and both similar defense, intelligence, and most importantly, offense, with Magno's bite and forelimbs rivaling if not exceeding those of Iblis's. However, the most major distinction between the two is locomotive capacity, as not only is Magno significantly lighter than Mr. Pickles at 27 tons, which makes him even lighter than my hybrid, but despite having the acro spine and Struthio's armor that would make him seem at first slow and sluggish, the Trike and Xenos Smiles in his genome do counteract this to a certain extent, giving him enough agility to keep up with my hybrid in terms of pace. So, how would this fight roll out? Now, I'm gonna be real with you. This fight was very difficult to judge, and no matter who wins, it's probably not gonna walk out the same way it walked in. But if I had to pick one winner, it would have to be Iblis. Now, there are two reasons why I did this. First is weapon practicality, as while Magno's bite and forelimbs are incredibly strong, Iblis steals goring weapons and tail weapons, considering that Magno's horns from Trike are not only extremely short, but given that Magno is significantly taller than my hybrid, he would not be capable of deploying these horns against him, making them pretty much obsolete. As for the tail weapons, while Magno's tail is incredibly robust, it is not as flexible as that of my hybrid and doesn't boast any major tail weapon that can concentrate the power of its tail swings on a singular point. Second reason is the armor, as Magno has bony plates from Struthiosaurus on the upper body, as well as bramble shark denticles and the osteoderm-like scales from Siamosukis on the lower body, with the Siamese crocodile's semi-aquatic lifestyle allowing it to retain the pristine shape of these denticles during combat. However, this likely wouldn't help all that much either way against a spear and horn attack from my hybrid Iblis. Now say that Magno tries to attack my hybrid using a powerful strike from its forelimbs. Given that my hybrid has a flexible neck as well as a more compact body in comparison comparison to Magno, giving him faster reaction time, he might be able to counteract with a horn jab to the forelimb, causing immense pain for Magno, as well as making it awkward for him to use that limb again in combat. As for the head, assuming that Magno tries to bite down on Iblis's horns, he can pull off a counterattack here as well, piercing through the lower jaw all the way up to the brain case, one-shotting Magno and pulling off a win. However, this is a pretty far-fetched scenario, as the most likely scenario is that this fight will roll out in a similar fashion to how the Iblis versus Alvar fight rolled out, except that Iblis would be the Alvar of this fight this time, as it is still the faster and the more agile of the two, and thus he would be able to eventually reach out to Magno's flanks, and given the aforementioned drawbacks of Magno's tail weapon, Iblis would be able to comfortably gore the areas that are only protected with scales and denticles, one-shotting Magno and pulling off a solid victory. Up next, we have Dirk, possibly the largest and most powerful hadrosaur hybrid ever made in the entire Great Hybrid War. And by the way, to the creator of Dirk, I really hope I made the artwork as accurate as possible. Anyways, it's a gargantuan mass of 48 tons, with a large set of armaments at its disposal, including a powerful bite measured at 11,000 newtons, strong peck attacks, a small rhino horn for charging and goring, devastating kicks and stomps, as well as an elongated tail with tail spikes from Antarctopelta, coupled with heightened intelligence, surprising speed and agility, as well as superb stamina. And yes, this guy is an absolute unit, to which my hybrid will have a hard time keeping up pace with, although its agility from Triceratops should do the job just fine in that regard. However, there's also another major advantage that gives my hybrid a win against this guy, that being its armor. In order to obtain such large proportions, Dirk had to sacrifice a lot of its protection, making him highly vulnerable to heavy attacks, and my hybrid has the heaviest of them all, as with a solid goring attack, it can quite easily bring down Dirk with a single hit, giving him an easy victory without breaking a sweat. And now we have gotten to sauropod territory, starting with Aura. Yes, that really is her name. This colossal sauropod being 4 times the size of my hybrid, with armadillo lizard scales covering pretty much the entirety of her own body, as well as the Tyrannosaurus tail club on the end of her tail, makes her an absolute powerhouse. But given her colossal size, she'd be slow and sluggish AF, and thus my hybrid can employ its strategy against her by using its powerful horns to go through Aura's armor, as not even the armadillo scales would be enough to protect her, as shown by Iblis' previous confrontation against the armored titan in the previous episode. But if you thought that Aura is the only 100 plus ton sauropod hybrid that we're facing up against in this episode, then guess again. Meet Sagishvans. And again, yes, that's his real name. This 140 ton sauropod hybrid is actually faring worse than Aura, due to the fact that his armor is less extensive, as well as the fact that his tail weapon is much worse, allowing my hybrid to easily go through him without breaking a sweat. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the final boss. And surprisingly enough, it's not a sauropod hybrid. So, remember last episode when I said that Bane of the Tusk is the most powerful mammalian hybrid in the entire Great Hybrid War? Yeah, scratch that, this is the most powerful mammalian hybrid in the entire Great Hybrid War. Meet Zalmoxis, also known as Balor 3.0. This colossal proboscidean hybrid at over 2 times the size of Bane of the Tusk earns the title of final boss by being the hardest opponent for Iblis to kill, with sheer bulk and an overpowered set of armor comprised of armadillo scales that are enriched with a thick layer of ganoin from alligator gar, giving it an incredibly robust defense that makes it even difficult for Iblis' horns to penetrate easily. And with this armor covering the entirety of Balor's body, this means that there are no exploits that Iblis can exploit in order to get itself a quick victory. In other words, this will be a battle of attrition, with the winner being whoever is capable of penetrating the opponent's defenses first. Now, both of these guys are built to handle a battle of attrition courtesy of their superb stamina, and their robust sets of armor allow them to tank a lot of abuse. So the winner of this matchup is the one who has the most effective sets of weapons in this fight. And I'm gonna keep it real with you, Iblis steals this category. Now don't get me wrong, Balor has very strong weapons, which include powerful Arsinotherium horns on the front, as well as strong Wolverine jaws, large protruding tusks, and a short trunk. As for the rear, it boasts a dodecarus tail club, with the tail itself being protected by pangolin scales, as well as a large ink sac, which can secrete ink in a similar manner to skunk spray. So yeah, Balor's weapons are indeed very strong. But to better explain how Iblis steals this category, here is a clip from one of Goji Center's latest videos.
A big misconception about bites in regards to combat, especially amongst big theropods, is that whoever has the strongest bite always wins. While there is a lot of weight behind this statement, would you believe that a ridiculously overpowered bite force isn't always a good indicator of who wins a fight? Sometimes even a fraction of max bite force can kill a rival. A lot of it comes down to who can bite first and land hits on target, more so than who bites harder.
In essence, it doesn't matter how strong your weapons are if you can't land a single hit with them, and that's where Balor's biggest downfall comes into play, as not only is he slower and more sluggish than my hybrid by a wide margin, but his range with those weapons is absolutely terrible as well. Let's start off with the horns. Being 10 meters tall at the horns, coupled with that thick short neck of his, makes it to where he can't actually employ them against Iblis in a headbutting maneuver, making them pretty much obsolete. Same goes for the tail, as given that Zalmoxis is only 12 meters long, with most of its body length being devoted to the torso, means that its tail is incredibly short and thus has a very small range of motion, not enough to hit Iblis if he were to target the flanks. And speaking of the devil, my hybrid on the other hand is more than capable of easily landing his hits on target, as Balor's legs being 5.9 meters tall means that his torso is within Iblis' striking range, whether it's goring, biting, or thagamizing. Heck, targeting the legs might as well be a viable strategy, crippling Zalmoxis and knocking him down to the ground, making matters far worse for our fellow Proboscidean. And say that Balor tries to turn towards my hybrid in order to put him in the range of his jaws. Well, first, Iblis can just do the same, and second, this could heavily backfire against Zalmoxis if my hybrid charges at him at the same time, as this process would facilitate the penetration of his powerful armor via Iblis' horns. In summary, this fight would be a long one, but thanks to my hybrid's superior speed and agility, ability to stay out of his opponent's range of attack, and far more effective weapons, the titanic saurian devil reigns supreme. And that concludes the second part of Diablosaurus Titanus versus the Great Hybrid War. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did, as the creation of this video took forever, and your support is deeply appreciated. And be sure to tune in next time, where I might very well just reveal to you what might very well just be the most powerful theropod hybrid in the entire Great Hybrid War. So until next time, goodbye.